Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start the committee meeting for Drainage, Roads, Buildings, and Land Committee meeting tonight. I am taking the place of the chairperson, Paul Drake, and the purpose of this meeting is to discuss whether the city should review the current refuse collection contract with the Republic or go out for bid for a new contract. With that being said, I'm going to send this over to Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Reeves. I know a couple weeks ago, we were heading down to Atlanta for a new grandchild, and I did provide a bunch of emails to council to try to get you thinking about what we currently have and what we should do in terms of refuse collection. And since that time, we certainly have met with Republic Services, which has our current contract. It is a 5-year contract. It ends November 30th of this year. And it is always like all other refuse contracts. We always debate, do we extend it or do we go out for bids to get pricing and so on. So in meeting with Republic and certainly going through different options, we've always talked about, we currently have an unlimited refuse collection as our service contract. And Terry, do you need to put up that slide? That's okay. So we currently have unlimited refuse collection with Republic Service. That is a rare service in our area, if not the state of Ohio, if not the country. And it is unique to Oregon. We've had it for a long time. It is kind of part of the debate is if you did go out to bid, would you go to limited, meaning would you just have just one can picked up once a week? And 5 years ago, if you recall, some of you were not on council at the time. At that time with recycling, it was a nationwide problem with recycling. China had stopped taking contaminated material. It was a major shift in the United States. Some cities were either burning it for power or taking it to a landfill. And it was a major change. Contamination was a very big issue. And we can say that it was the need of education, but I can tell you that even some of the products was no longer valuable. I know in some areas they don't even accept glass. Glass is now refuse. So at that time we had suspended our curbside recycling. We always said would come back to that at some point in the future if the market was more favorable. And the good news to that is the county, who's been planning a materials recovery facility for 30 years, is finally building one. And that is scheduled to be done in year 2026. I've talked to Julie Riley, who's in charge of that program, and I don't think it'll be done till the end of 2026. I don't think it'll be in full operation until 2027. So it was always my goal to go back to curbside recycling when that facility was open. And that's about 3 years out from now. And then bringing that up to Republic Services, I asked, hey, would you consider offering an extension of our contract? Obviously, I wanted at no increase, but you don't always get that. But my thought was to get us by for the next 3 years and then go out for a full bid, which includes recycling. And that was my main ask, but I think I really just wanted direction from City Council as to your thoughts. I wanted you to go out to your constituents and ask what they thought. I think at first when I said, hey, go out and ask people if they like unlimited, I should have said, well, are they willing to pay more for it, And I didn't do that, but I'm still glad you went out and talked because it still gets people talking about it and you get a sense of how do people feel about unlimited versus limited. So it was a good thing no matter what. So in trying to get direction from City Council, I wanted to give a snapshot of what other communities are paying. And I don't know, Cassie, if you can put that up, the one table. We went out and Republic Services gave us a lot of, you may want to blow it up a little bit. Republic Services gave us a lot of their contracts. It was public knowledge, but I know it's difficult to necessarily provide that when other bids are ongoing at any time. But if you look at Toledo, Toledo has a very low rate, but they do not take the material. Republic Services does not take the material into their landfill. They take it to Toledo's landfill, and they obviously Toledo gets a break on that. And as you go down through the different contracts, one common theme with all of them, they're all limited. Oregon is the sole community that's unlimited refuse collection. And you know, the first rate that you see in the column next to the number of homes is the rate for one can to be picked up once a week. Ours is unlimited weekly. And then there are different costs to some of the other communities. If you look on the notes to each one of these, in some cases, bulk pickup, you actually pay for a tag, and then you tag that whatever you put out front, and you pay separate for that, and you have that picked up. So there are a lot of additional costs in these other communities. So when you see the lower rate, you also have to realize there's other fees that you may not be aware of. Going down through it, if you look at what's available and for where Oregon's at currently, our contract was for 5 years. It increased by 3.5% every year. It does go up and down with based on the cost of gas. If the gas goes up, so does the unit price. If it goes down, and so on. And like I said, that contract ends this November. The offer that has been made by Republic Services is to go to, actually it's a 10.8% increase. Instead of a 3.5, it's a 10.8 the first year. And then the second year, it's a 5%. Third year, it's another 5%. Their full offer is on a letter on the back of this handout, and certainly feel free to look through it. I think for the most part, I'm just looking for council's direction. I think, in my view, I think we should go out for a full bid in 3 years. I think the one thing I didn't talk much about is yard waste. Most of these communities do not allow yard waste. We do currently have yard waste in our pickup. It is supposed to be commingled, mixed with other refuse, but I've seen, you know, pretty much tree stumps, you know. And I know the other communities may say the same, but I think it's likely stricter in other communities as to what they allow yard waste. I think something the city really does need to think about is whether we contract out yard waste separately, and to where it can be turned into mulch, and perhaps even go through a private entity to do that. That's something we definitely have to do. And I think even with recycling, I'll tell you, the drop-off sites, at first, just getting people started, I know it's a bother, but I'll tell you, the people that take the recycling to these drop-offs are very conscientious people. And when you talk to Julie Riley with Lucas County, they'll tell you our recycling is actually extremely clean. It's sorted and it's clean. And I think Oregon residents should be proud. The ones that are taking it there should be proud. I know it's tough, and it bothers some people. For me, you know, I think if I had to pay an extra $5, I have no problem taking it to the drop-off site. I'm cheap. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. I'm not saying that we shouldn't go back to curbside recycling. I'm just saying the price in our area will never be great until that Lucas County facility is built. Right now, Republic Services take this recycling to a Cleveland recovery center. And could you imagine taking it there to Cleveland and then finding out it's contaminated and you got to bring it back? Nobody wants that. So I just think, for me, I guess I'm looking for that direction. And I think if you go out to bid, one thing that is very evident is that it's very likely you will not get bids for unlimited. Republic may bid it, maybe. But I can tell you, the last time, 5 years ago, Waste Management did not bid the unlimited, right? And at that time, if you saw the contract that I also provided to council, at that time, Republic gave a bid for limited pickup and then gave also a bid for unlimited. And there was only a 25-cent difference between the two options. So we picked unlimited, right? Recycling at the time, Republic's bid was like just under 300,000 a year. And I remember Waste Management bid was over 600 grand, close to 600 grand. And again, a lot of it wasn't being recycled. It was actually going to a landfill. There, at the time, Republic had told me sections of City of Toledo where they know it's contaminated, they don't bother. They take it to a landfill, to be fair, and it's in their contract to do so. But Toledo's paying a premium as if it's being recycled, and that's not. So at the time, I thought it was very wise. It wasn't like we were doing away with curbside recycling. We were just suspending it until the market would change. And it has changed. And what makes a big difference for our area is really a facility in our location. And that will happen. And so that's my general thoughts. So I think I just wanted to share with you what other communities are paying. Rossford is another one on here. Obviously, I'm from Rossford. I know people there, and I talked to one of their council people, and they gave me their rates. That is a waste management contract. They're paying $15.15 per month per household for limited pickup, which isn't too far. Here you have Republic offering a price that's just a hair above that, but still with unlimited. And I think, okay, what we're getting is actually a fair offer. But the warning, I guess, to council is if you go out to bid, which we can do, I think it's likely you're going to see certainly higher prices. I think if you go to limited, you may see a savings. It'll be less of a service, but there'd still be a savings. Now, I'll put on the fiscal conservative hat here. I think you got to remember, council or the city had chose to use income tax to pay for refuse collection. And that money that's collected is also used for roads, it's used for buildings, it's used for police cars. So you got to remember, when you use more of that limited pot of money for one service, other services will take a hit from that. All right. So not as many roads will get. So 260 is the fund that it goes to, is used for roads. It is used for police cars. It is used for buildings. So you just got to remember, and this expense, this contract is more, in my mind, more of an operating contract. You pay this increase, you're going to pay this amount every year. And as long as you're a city, you're always going to have a refuse contract. So to me, it's operating. And then here you are with the fire department and trying to decide and whether you go to an income tax levy. I think you got to think about your decisions on this and other decisions on the budget and how that affects you and voters for upcoming, if there is a levy in the future, I don't know. But again, your decision can impact that voter as well. And I'm not telling you one way or the other. I'm just telling you to think about it in whatever you're thinking we should do. So with that, Mr. Reeves, that's my short presentation, but I'm here to answer questions and try to, and my goal is to get some sort of direction from City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. I know Mr. Major had something to say as well. Go, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, and I agree with a lot of the things Paul Roman said. There's a couple things I have a little opinion on. We've seen a change in our garbage pickup when we switched to the wheeled hoppers that you put out in front of your house. And we had people that were not comfortable with that at first. There were people thought that was not a good idea because they were used to putting whatever they wanted out in front of their house in whatever container they had, or just throwing it on the ground, and thought that was a sort of a restriction in itself. I think people have gotten used to those and found pleasure in being able to wheel something out to the road versus carrying a garbage can out. But you will find in the future, as Mr. Roman says, in future bids, not only will we possibly not see the chances of having unlimited, but you will likely see people only bidding containers that can be picked up by a truck instead of people coming out and throwing whatever you have in your front yard into the truck because, as it was told to us, they get a normal amount, abnormal amount of workers' comp claims from workers having to do that type of work. So we are going to see a change. As for the recyclables, I really like the pickup points we have versus if we have a recycle program again, there's another truck that comes out and goes through the whole city. So even if they start those, what do they call them, MRFs, we will still have a $300,000 pickup fee to get them there because it's a lot of work to go through the whole city and pick it up. And I see it to be a more economical or more economic situation of people bringing their recyclables, the points we have. And as for yard waste, when it was ruled that you couldn't have yard waste put in landfills, the landfills found that to be a detriment to them because yard waste is one of the kindest friends to the landfill. Instead of taking up space, it creates space. Any one of us who would have yard waste like grass in their yard for a short time in a can, you notice it breaks down very fast, becomes foul. But when it does that in a landfill, it takes other products with it. So rather than taking up space, it actually creates space. So putting yard waste in a landfill, I see as a good thing versus a bad thing. And having another pickup is just another cost to the city. So other than that, I like the idea of renewing this contract and start educating when we learn a little bit more of what we will be doing in the future to create a quality refuse pickup, because I think that's very important to a community. Those who take care of their waste see less of it in their neighbors' yards, or it's just a cleaner community. So whatever route we take, a lot of consideration should be going into having a quality pickup, whether it's limited or all in containers, but whatever, we want to keep the community cleaned up.
Thank you. Can I go to Mr. Mazur?
Thank you,
Real quick.
Mr. Chair. So the one thing I just want to, and I know everybody's touched on it already, but the this is an operating expense, okay? Every year we pay this no matter what. It's part of the contract. And every year that we've had this contract, it's been going up 3.5%. This time it's going 10.8% in 1 year. That's an operating fund. That's over $160,000 per year that it will be going forward. So that's $160,000. That's just for the first year. Then you stack on 5% the additional next 2 years. So we're at $320,000+ per year operating expenses. So just know that going into this, that is an additional cost to the city out of general operating funds, not capital. This is operating. So that's every year. But I will say, I do want to add this, that, I mean, when we talk about the options of limited, you limit it to cans, but there are some services, and I haven't been in any of the conversations with Republic Services. I've been in conversations with other service providers. There are ways to have the cans picked up every week, but what other communities do too, and in terms of the limited, is they'll have an unlimited bulk or a bulk pickup that can be scheduled by the individual with the provider 2 to 4 times per year. So it's not like, I don't know how many people use the unlimited service here, but I'm one of the households that doesn't as much as frequently as from what I see out when I'm driving around. But that doesn't mean that other people don't use it all the time. But, if you could use it and save it up, there is a way to do this as a limited pickup and still, if you went back out to bid. The last thing I wanted to add though is that, that in terms of the rates provided and in comparisons compared to the service that we get, I do believe that this is still a good deal for us. So it's for the amount of service, and like Paul said, we're the last one. Oregon is the last one that gets unlimited pickup. But with the rates that we're given, this is a good deal for us. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Roman.
Just to touch upon what the mayor had mentioned too, when this contract first started with Republic, and before that it was Waste Management, Republic basically provided a cart to every resident, and the idea was to get people started with carts because that's the way things were going, and everything is so automated. You just sit and watch how fast they go. It's unreal versus them getting out of the truck, and if you were going out to bid for the limited, a resident could rent another cart as a part of the services. So don't think that, even if you go to limited someday, those that need more cans can get that. There's just that extra cost. And that's what you see in all these contracts, the bulk tags and things like that. It's just additional ways of collecting that. My fear is if you didn't do what Mr. Major said during a 2 times a year or whatever, or just simply had a bulk tag, my fear is we're going to find it at a creek. We're going to find it off on the side of the road, and it's going to be the street department picking up those materials. So I just want to be cautious on that. And some of these, I know I just wanted to break up Oak Harbor and Port Clinton. I think those were newer contracts. They are a higher rate as well. But they had these extra bag fees. I think Rochelle Bowen with Republic Services here tonight. And so if you have your can out and you just have an extra bag, you can do so, but it's a charge of $3. Okay. And I think $4.50 in Port Clinton. So there are things like that you can do with the bid. So again, the bid is out there. I just think in 3 years, though, I would like to get prices for curbside recycling. And I think my thought was just do it all at that time. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Ms. Pauloff,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
can you pull your mic closer?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So I did post that question to a lot of residents. I spoke to a lot of residents. They not only like the service that we are currently getting, but they've also liked the person who picks up their trash. They've actually formed relationships with them. So, excuse me. I also had posted and included the prices that you had given us, Mr. Roman, and that was a resounding, we want to keep unlimited. So if we're going to pay that price, we'll pay that price, especially now in lieu of understanding that it won't be unlimited anymore if you put it out to bid. Sure, you could see unlimited and then possibly bringing back curbside recycling since we're losing that unlimited or to limited. But right now, they are pretty happy with the way it is right now. So in listening to the constituency, I think we really need to just extend what we have right now and keep it the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Anything else from the administration? Any council people?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wallenczak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Roman, I was wondering if Republic Services provides any data on households that use unlimited, households that have 2 cans, households that have 1 can. What percentage of our residential population is utilizing unlimited pickup on a weekly basis?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Wallenczak, I'm sure we could get that information as to who rents additional carts and get a sense of that. In terms of the weight or the the amount, it might be hard.
I'm not asking about the weight. I'm
But
just
how many get an
saying,
extra cart? I would think we could get that from Republic.
I mean,
But
because
they do contract separately with Republic. They would call them and say, I would like an extra cart, correct? But you don't? Okay. Okay. Okay.
yeah, I just want to know
Yep.
who puts it on how many households just lay bags on the ground? How many utilize carts? What's our percentage of the residential population that just uses one cart? Because I know there's a lot of people that just have one bag inside of a cart.
Correct.
You know, so I'm just wondering if there's more data that can be filtered through, because I do worry that at the end of this 3 years, that's 300 and some odd $1,000 that it's being taken away from something else. And at some point in time, us as a council has to make hard decisions on where our money is being spent. I know the residents love the unlimited, and I'm not saying we should take it away, but we really have to take a hard look at the utilization of unlimited, where if a household just has one can and that's all they do is use one can, and that's 70% of our population, well, we're paying a lot of money for unlimited when only 30% of your population is using that service. And so I would just like more data so I can understand that better.
Yeah, and if I could, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so yeah, we can try to get as much information as we can, Mr. Wallensack. And I think as I'm just sitting here thinking, listening, you bring up a real good point. The other thing in all these communities, a lot of them, 100% of the costs are paid by the residents out of pocket. You know, it's not the general. Now, Rossford is through the general income tax, or Maumee, I think they pay a share of it. There's some of them that they do use some income tax to cover the cost, but in almost all of them, there's an out-of-pocket cost. And I think those communities that decided, hey, when you need something above and beyond the minimum, if you really need that, you can pay extra for that. That's a hard subject.
No,
You
and
know,
I understand, and I'm not sure if everybody realizes how our garbage is paid for through income tax
Correct.
that goes into the
Correct.
260 fund.
Yeah.
So us as citizens don't see an out-of-pocket expense, so we don't understand, or some people may not fully understand
Yeah.
when we say, hey, just go forward with unlimited trash pickup. Well, if that expense goes up, the money's got to come from someplace.
Many people in Oregon think that they pay for refuse through their water and sewer bill, and that is incorrect.
Yeah.
They do not.
It's
through your
through the
income
income,
tax.
by charter, it's paid by income tax,
That's
by our
correct.
city charter.
That's
So
correct.
if we want to change any funding,
That's correct.
it would have to be a charter change.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallensack. Mr. Mazur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to emphasize that point that Paul made, is that us and Rossford are the only two area cities that don't charge a garbage fee. And most of those garbage fees are assessed to the utility bill. So they are associated with the utility bill. So they have to pay their garbage fee and their utility bill all in one. And that usually comes from the city. So, yeah, us and Rossford are the only ones that pay for garbage out of general operating funds. So that's a good point. I want to make sure we hammer that home, because again, it's coming out of general fund operating, which pays for, police, fire, courts, parks, and streets. So just.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Mazur. Mr. Wallensack.
Yeah, and I just want to stress, I'm not saying and advocating we get rid of unlimited. I just want us to fully understand the costs associated with it and the percentage of our population. And I could be way off. It could be 70% of the population that utilizes unlimited. I don't know. That's why I like the data.
Thank you. Mr. Wallensack and everyone else. I believe that a lot of, I don't use it as much every time I set out the can, but there are times that I do need to use the extra for the bulk pickup and the unlimited. I know there's a lot of people that, that I have talked to that they're, like Ms. Paul have said, they're very happy with what we have and they want to keep what we have. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Wallenbeck had said, I don't want to get rid of unlimited pickup. Yeah, all right. But what we're likely to see is bulk pickup might get rid of us. So that might not be an option. So we're going to have some form, we might, it's just as we've seen the garbage pickup evolve into the carts with wheels, we can keep saying we want to keep unlimited pickup, but that might not be an option. We might see a different form on certain days be offered to us, but we can't make a decision until we see what our options are. So to continue now, we have the option because we have that contract and renewal, but we'll have to wait to see what the future brings to us as options.
Again, I'm not advocating for us to get rid of it. I would just like more information so that we can build and make a sound decision
And
as we move forward.
I'm guessing that when our current provider provides a cost for the unlimited pickup, they know that in mind of what they've seen in the past, and they knew how to bid it accordingly by what they traditionally get monthly and annually to give that price. But once again, that's probably the same rationale they'll use when they offer whatever services, however services change as options to us, will be based on the history of what they've experienced, would be my guess. Would I be wrong? All right.
Thank you. Ms. Bowen, do you have anything that you would like to, please come up and, just state your names till we know
Rochelle
who's.
Bowman with Republic Services. Thanks for having me tonight. I know there's a lot on your plate to think about. I don't have the extra cart information, but two things I'd like to point out. You're my heaviest weighted community by almost 20 pounds per household. That's pretty huge. The other thing is you have my two best drivers in the system. As you pointed to, we have little old ladies that love them, but they start at 7 a.m. and they're bringing it home into our yard 6:30, 7 o'clock every night. My city of Toledo is down, which has double the houses to drive by per route. That tells me there's a lot they're picking up. So I just wanted to share that. The other thing, I love the idea of the extension because let's work together and let's start to educate your community on recycling, how to do it right, so that I'm not battling 40, 45, and 50% contamination, which ends up at the back end of your bill. That's not what we want. We do have communities that we take right to the landfill, and we're working continually with them to stop that. But I think if you educate today, we'll be ready for 27 or 28. Anybody have any questions for me?
Council, administration, any questions for Ms. Bowen? Mr. Major?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I did want to point out that I did do a ride-along, and I've done ride-alongs before, but I wanted to go with the one that's been dubbed the Angry Garbage Man. Bill. And he was very pleasant. He was actually very pleasant.
He was told to be nice.
And yeah, was he? Oh, okay. Oh, so there was an act.
He's the one that everybody loves.
Yeah, no, he was great. He was good. I could sense that his frustrations at times of what he sees and what he deals with on a daily basis. So, but nobody really sees what he deals with on a daily basis. So they dub him the Angry Garbage Man because they don't see what he has to deal with every day in and day out. It's a lot. There's a lot going on on any garbage day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roman?
Another point, probably in our discussions, probably has to be the biggest pet peeve with Republic is evictions.
Correct.
And we've seen them in Toledo, obviously we've seen it in Oregon, and it certainly bothers us. We don't want to see it. Their pricing that Rochelle has given us was trying to exempt them from having to pick up evictions. Now, if that landlord, whoever's doing the evicting, does eventually put it in the proper containers, it would get picked up. But part of this pricing is that we come back with an ordinance that would fine an individual. If they're not gonna follow our program and they're just gonna put it out there at the curb, they should be fined for it. And there should be a way of, bringing in a dumpster and forcing them filling it up and them paying that dumpster. So I have language for that, and I maybe shared that with all of you, just a draft form. But that's part of this pricing, is that we also, before this November 30th, that we come back with some legislation regarding that. And I think it's something, now, if you did go to bid and you went to limited, you'd get rid of the eviction problem, because you just have cans and that's it.
Unless you had it written in
So-
the contract that it had to be evictions.
Correct. So, but there are certain laws with evictions that you do have to allow for the landlord to do that. So that's things you have to follow as well. So I'm trying to write it so that accounts for that, but that's also a part of this pricing. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Can I
Counsel,
respond? Can I respond to that? Excuse me.
You sure can.
First of all, I want to give Keith and Beth my kudos. They make my job so easy, helping you guys keep the streets clean. If we do have an eviction that's 6 feet high and a block and a half, they work with us. Again, I want to make sure my driver gets home safe every night. And when you have stuff stacked, it's cardboard boxes and it rains during the night. There's no way we can safely retrieve that. That's why we're asking for some help on that. And I appreciate some of the wording that you've created for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counsel, anybody else? Mr. Horniak?
I'll go either to Ms. Bowen or Mr. Roman. I have three different questions, just kind of speaking to some of the information that was provided in the comparison. So what defines or constitutes something as a bulk item? Is it anything that's not in the container?
Correct.
So anything not, so a bag on the ground is considered bulk
Could be.
because it's not in the container.
And a lot of times what we see is that bag could go in the container and it doesn't. Again, the original pricing is by drive-by time. So every time that driver can stop, put the grab on the can, dump it and go on, we're talking 17 to 20 seconds a lot of times are built in to our models. But when he has to physically get out at almost every stop and grab a bag or a box, it delays everybody.
Okay.
Just to answer that, I tend to think of a large item, a large appliance item.
A
Okay,
couch.
but it could be,
It could be something small.
it could be something small. So in not being funny about this, but so if I have a bag and I set it on top of my container, is that a bulk item? And I'm just asking because if we go to a limited with bulk, that is outside the can, even though it's
We'd
on top
rather
of the
see
can.
the lid open, that bag sitting on top where the driver can grab it and dump it. Because what happens when he begins to grab that can, what's gonna happen halfway up? And
Falls
you have
off.
like this much space between the truck and the can, it's
Yep.
gonna fall, it could bust over. We all know how windy Oregon is. Then you got a driver running down the street trying to collect the trash to keep the neighborhood clean.
Okay, very good. Second question I have. In the communities that have additional charges, bulk tags, land or yard waste, things of that nature, how are those additional charges billed and how are they collected? You mentioned something about utility bills. To us, that would basically be a water bill. How are those charged and how are those collected?
And I can try to answer the best that I can, because some of this data I know came from Michelle, but I think in most cases, you're going to a city paying for a tag that you place on the appliance and you're scheduling some sort of pickup, okay?
Correct.
The water bill was just that a lot of communities use the water bill to collect revenue of some form for refuse collection. It's just a typical thing, but the bulk tags, the idea, I know in Perrysburg, I think they handle their own refuse, but yard waste, you actually purchase the bags. And I don't know if you purchase that at the nearest grocery store or at the city building, but you're purchasing these things separately through some entity, one bag at a time or one tag at a time, and that's what's used for the pickup.
If I
Thank you.
Can I add
No,
to that?
please.
So like my city of Maumee has $3.50 craft bags. They're the brown, larger grocery bags just for yard waste. We have those at Churchill's. We did have them at the Rite Aid that closed. So now I'm trying to find another vendor. We purchase the bags. We're trying to get out of that business because what I'm seeing on social media is I can get 7 bags at Menards for $10. We'd like to get out of that because we buy the bags for $3.50. They're selling them for $3.50. Now, I will not mention who, but there are a couple communities that I had up north. The bags were bought from us for $3. They sold them for $6. So they were getting a little back end revenue on it as well.
Okay. I guess piggybacking on that, and I still have one more outside of this. But in order for us to charge additional fees for refuse collection, the charter would have to be changed in order to do that, or is base garbage pickup chartered through income tax and additional pickup would be through this? How exactly would that need to transact for us?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Major.
thank you for asking that question. That's good. Right now, it's all general fund funded. Anything that changes with how our income tax is collected would have to be a change of the charter. Establishing a fee system is enacted by council.
Okay, so if
So-
we were to pass on cost for collection to the community, that would have to be a charter change.
Not if
No.
it's a fee. If
If it's a
you-
fee,
It's a fee, it can be done through city council.
okay, but
So
even
just
though,
like our,
Mr. Major, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you'd still have a portion of your dedicated revenue going to pay perhaps the base pay. But if it's a need to supplement it with additional funding, yes, you could probably collect that through a utility bill.
and through a fee,
Correct.
so I'll say, basic collection service would be paid for through income taxes through the general fund. The additional fee for bulk pickups, heavy pickups, things of that nature would be passed on from fee-based service.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. Last question I have on this is just looking at the comparisons with the different cities, and I see the note in here with the city of Toledo. I don't see it to others. Looking at specifically like the communities of Maumee and Sylvania, where the month rate is $7.75 and $8.16 respectively. The city of Toledo notes on there at a rate of $7.05 that they are not sending their disposal to your landfill.
Correct.
Is that the same in the other communities of why their rates are lower? Or can you speak to why are their rates lower? Is it strictly because of the basis of their plan? Or is there something else?
In part, but Sylvania's is lower because they do the 2-time-a-year service,
Okay.
fall and spring, and there's a separate dollar amount associated with that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but that is something I could. Well, like we just did Sylvania's cleanup last week, and I'm thinking for some reason it's like 4,500 that we did it for the week. And we just did it on the same trash day, same service day, because in Sylvania, we're 5 days a week as well.
So in essence, because their pickup is limited and they have the bulk cleanup twice a year,
Correct.
that allows for a lower program rate
Yes.
because of that.
Yes, and Mommy's an older contract than yours, and that'll be up next year, and I'll be before their council as well.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Bowen. Thank you, Mr. Roman. Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Anybody Mr. Sandlander?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also asked several people, well, about 8,000 people on Facebook posts as well as talking to people. And I would agree also that a majority of people like things the way they are. With the unlimited was important, more important than recycling. As I remember, I think before recycling was kind of a sticky point with people, but they've gotten used to going to their drop-off areas. But I think it's a good idea. I agree with Mr. Walenzak also, looking at the numbers to see if, sometimes we think, I believe, well, we want to have unlimited, but we find that we really may or may not really need it, So I think looking at those numbers is going to be a good help on that as well. But I will say though, that a majority of people that I spoke to were in favor of just staying as we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor.
just want to finish this off by saying, if you look at the history of the way this is going, to see offers or possibilities offered in the future to be other than things that are refuse that is contained in a cart out by the road, it would be reasonable thinking to believe that's all will be offered, with additional things being options. So you gotta get
Correct.
used to that, because that's the way it's going. And so offering this unlimited deal is an illusion that is not going to exist. So we just got to prepare, as you brought up, educating the people of what is coming. And we have basically two containers right now: the old recyclable container, which I doubt we're going to be having roadside pickup. If you ask the question on social media, what do you want? Unlimited pickup and roadside recyclable pickup? Of course, they're going to say yes. Everybody would. Because that seems like the best deal for them. They're not paying anything, but that's not reality. That's not going to happen. We're likely not to have roadside pickup for recyclables, and we are likely to have containers that the stuff that's picked up will be in those containers that can be picked up automatically by the truck. That's reality. Anything else is not.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr.
Mike?
Chairman,
Hey,
Mr.
Mike,
Chairman,
you can come up, please.
I'm sorry, do I get a chance
No.
as a chairperson?
Mike
or-
asked first, and then I'll get to you.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Ackerman.
No, I'm sorry, I wanted to thank you, Rochelle, and you've given me a lot of good information, coming in to council. It's been great. Your people have been great to talk to, and they bear with me really, they're very patient. I do think, just as Kathy said and Steve said, that, yeah, overwhelmingly people have said, keep it as it is. But I do think we do need to educate them that what the other cities are doing, and that this is a convenience. It's bordering on a luxury, if that's, but I know if well, yeah, I was trying to be polite, but as Mr. Major said, if you do the ride along, Bill will show you house by house, just they could be in and out of your neighborhood so much faster if you just extend the courtesies of not putting a bag on top of your can, not setting bags all around your can, not putting your cans right up next to each other so he has to get out and move them apart so that he can pick them up. And taking your recycling, he would open up bags, and I'm sure he showed you how much recycling ends up in the landfill that doesn't need to, when we have so many nice facilities. And I have pictures of inside of our recycling, and overwhelmingly, they're pretty clean. I mean, you always hear this, oh, there's so much garbage, it all ends up in the garbage. And I do agree. It's been an issue that you're transporting it to be sorted so far away that takes away from how responsible is this? What are we really saving environmentally? But I look forward to the Toledo sorting facility. And I think if we get this, we move this along a little further while educating and working on creating a place for those yard wastes to be composted and utilized, not just creating gases in the dump. I think that anybody that's a chronic offender, we've just got to figure out, like, people that are just refuse, they just refuse, and they're given this luxury, as we say. There's got to be something that we can do to get them to get on board so that these trucks are in and out of our neighborhoods faster, and the can't, everything's not left all around these totes. So I do want to thank you for your time. You have been just so accessible with every dumb question that I have, and I really appreciate you. And Bill, you didn't have to let me tag along, and you really didn't need to let me take that ugly stick out of the garbage that somebody threw away. But I appreciated it. I said, this is not, you should never let me go by an unlimited pickup and see what people are throwing out, because It was just overwhelming. I couldn't handle the waste, but anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. Mike, if you'd like to.
I know most of you up here. My name's Mike Searle, 5537 Pickle Road. Sitting here listening tonight, I appreciate the graph with all the comparisons. The facts are, every community up there, including Oregon, is a different geographic footprint. So I don't know how you factor in distance traveled, house density, how far you've got to go to unload trucks. So not that it isn't important, but really all I care about, the city of Oregon, and I know my trash pickup is very good, and I appreciate the job your drivers do. And if there's a mess, they pick it up. And so there's no quarrel with the company we have. The numbers were given for a 3-year renewal, and I'll just round them off of 10, 5, and 5 on the increases. And are those numbers locked in? If you were to put it out to bid, are those numbers rescinded and then your Republic will bid again and come back with different numbers?
Well, so let me answer that. So, Mr. Chairman
Thank
and
you.
Mike, well, if you go out to bid, it's whatever the bid comes in at. So it's, you would have options for 1 can or 2 cans and unlimited and the whole gamut, and you get new pricing. But at that time, this extension won't be offered. It's whatever those bids are,
Okay,
that's what they are.
So with Republic, it can be new numbers and you don't know what those numbers will be.
Correct.
Okay. My concern is, you all live in this city, in social media, I wish with one swipe it could go away. But
Absolutely.
if it goes out that City of Oregon voted on by council, renew the contracts, they didn't get a bid, everybody's going to say, what's going on? 3 years later and you don't get a bid. But I understand bird in the hand is quite attractive. So that's something for you to wrestle with and to consider. But Republic's been doing a fine job in 10, 5, and 5 sounds like a lot, but in this day and age, everything else's prices are through the roof. So
Thank you, Mike.
appreciate your time.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
And Mike, I would say that we did get a bid because we got that bid that we're choosing to renew. So we did get a bid and I can deal with that. We try to make what experienced, intelligent decisions on what the future could be. And at this time, until we're able to get people used to the possibility of the service changing, it's probably our best option. Yeah.
There are other companies.
They weren't even giving us the option of unlimited pickup, the other companies.
Mr. Roman.
Well, and I can say this, I mean, so I've bid this contract at least 5 times in my career here. And most of those bids, you'd get one bid. Last time, we got 2 bids. We got Waste Management and Republic. Republic was actually growing, getting their foot in the door and picking up a lot of new clients. But at that bid, Waste Management did not bid unlimited. No bid. And that was my concern for going out again, because I think the writing's on the wall. When you see what everyone else's contract is, chances are you're not going to get bids for unlimited. So if you go out for bid, I think you're going to be done with unlimited, and so be it. You know, the question is, will there be a savings? I don't know. Some of the newer contracts are Port Clinton and Oak Harbor. Correct me if I'm wrong. And those are way higher numbers now, and those are limited to a can. Okay, smaller group of people you're serving, so I get it, bigger number. But we are the size of a township and there's a lot of driving here. Okay, so it's another factor. No, I think you have all these factors. I guess the point I want to make is this is not a easy decision. This is actually very difficult. And that's why I'm looking for direction. So I guess my ask to council then, and I don't know if we're done with comments. Well, I'd like to bring in an ordinance. If it is for an extension within the next week or even the next council round, I'd like to bring an ordinance in for that. If it's something where you want more information or more meetings, so be it. I think if we were to go to bid, I would definitely need an extension anyways, just to get us months to go to bid. And that would be a cost too. So I'm just looking for direction. If you guys are okay with the extension, I'll just prepare the ordinance and certainly provide the information, Mr. Wallenczak, that you had asked for. But that's the direction I would go if that's what's given.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Horniak.
Yeah, just I guess, from my point of view for final comment is I think the communities, responded overwhelmingly that they like the current program. They like the unlimited pickup, the bulk capabilities. But I think it was said earlier, given the choice with no cost attached to it, of course, you're going to want the Cadillac, but a lot of us buy Chevys. So there comes that. I would just say as a reminder, and I'm actually more in support of renewing the contract than I would be with going out to bid. But throughout the course of this year and previous years, we're having discussions and we will start finance and budget hearings in a couple of months. And we have things like firefighters and police and equipment and roads and water. And we've talked before, and I've said it here in this room, this will be about priorities. This will be about what is important to our community. Because Mr. Roman said it perfectly, saying yes to this means we will have to say no to something else because we have a finite budget to work with. So $300,000 over 3 years, while I believe it is in our best interest and what our city would like to have, that's $300,000 in the next 3 years that comes away from something else. And to put it to a recent issue of discussion, that's a firefighter every year. So if the question is posed, would you rather have more firefighters or unlimited pickup? I'd be very curious to see what the answer to that would be. Because again, that's what those of us sitting up front here are elected to do. We have to put those priorities. Mr. Roman, you're exactly correct. This is a much more difficult decision than what most people would think. And Mike, your point about if we just renew this contract, well, you didn't get any bids. Well, what's going on with that? Well, but we have enough experience in education to say this is a pretty good deal and it maintains what we have. But at the end of the day, over 3 years, we will spend $300,000 for this service that could have been spent in other city services, other departments, and other needs. So again, it becomes priorities. As we get to the budget process, these are going to be the things we have to take into account if we truly want to do some of the other things in our city. Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Thank you.
It's $610,000 over 3 years.
Cumulative over 3 years. Yep.
600,000.
With that all being
Yeah.
said, council, what is your pleasure for directive for Mr. Roman? I mean,
Mr.
I'm in favor
I would be
of
in
the
support of renewal.
renewal. Ms. Paula,
I'm in support of renewal.
Mr. Wallenczak?
Yeah, I would like to move forward with the renewal, but I still would like to see that data.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I know where we're, because in 3 years from now, some of us will and some of us won't be sitting at this dais. And we'll have to make that hard decision if we're pushing it 3 years down the road. People sitting here will be making that decision, and gathering that data now so we can start absorbing the data will be important for whoever makes that decision.
Mr. Sandler?
I'm in favor of moving forward, and I just ditto to what
Absolutely.
Mr. Wallen said.
Ms. Ackerman?
I think the citizens are very happy with the service that they have, and I think that if we switch, we're gonna have additional costs in trying to do all this billing, this additional billing. If we go to limited with the add this, add that, or, I mean, I'm assuming that they do that through the city, right? That would be a service we would have to provide, so that would be our cost? That, whoever the, you like Republic, you wouldn't handle the billing for all of the bulk and the additional if we went to limited? Correct?
Mr.
The city-
Roman.
I'm just making sure I have it straight
Well,
for.
the-
Mr. Roman.
And to be fair, I think you can do it a number of ways. I think most cities, if it's just supplemental to refuse collection, they can do it through utility bill, but the idea of tags and bags and things like that, I know Republic doesn't want to be in that business, but I know other communities do that, where you can purchase the tag through another entity or so on.
But not through us, it'd be.
Correct.
through
It just depends on how you set it up.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mansion.
I do have experience with this. It's a nominal cost
Oh,
at best
oh,
for the tags. You have them in here. Sometimes you'll have like grocery stores or stores that will carry the tags that people know they can purchase the tags at if they don't want to come to the city building. So there's multiple locations, but the
but
tags
actual
are
billing of
are
it?
very nominal expense, and adding it to the utility bill is the ink to print one line
Okay.
on each of the utility bills every
The
month.
utility water bill? Or what?
If it's
utility
an
bill?
added, I'm sorry, if it's an added fee. So I mean, council can add a fee to this at any time they want. Just like a building inspection fees or any other fees that's governed by council. And that can be added on, but if it's billed by utilities, it's just added to as a line item on
I'm
the bill.
just, the point being, there would be
But it would be
additional
collected-
cost clerically to, if we went to limited and then someone has to sort out all of these other services that citizens could have.
Yeah, a separate fund would be created by the finance department.
saying-
It
I'm
would
just
be
saying
collected
there's
and tracked,
additional.
but it wouldn't be an addition. I mean, it'd be a little bit of additional staff time, but not, again, I would consider that nominal as part of the day-to-day operation, but.
Not an
you know,
additional position or
All we do is
anything
say,
like
Nick, you gotta handle this, and he
Oh,
handles it.
it's on
So
Nick.
that's
Okay, well
that's
then,
what we
all
do.
right. No problem.
all you gotta
then. It's
do.
on Nick. Well, so in, like Mr. Roman, I think he feels the same way I do as far as if we have the unlimited, it keeps the garbage from being put everywhere out of convenience for the citizens and out of the sight of their own homes. So I think you're actually saving and keeping the city cleaner by having the unlimited. So I would in learning better ways with the recycling and that, but as we go forward, I know Keith Henninger said that too. It's a good, let's keep it what it is and just educate people further. That's where I'm at.
Thank you. With that being said, Mr. Roman, there's your directive. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bowen, for being here to explain. If there's nothing further at this time, I will seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.